Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. So I am flying solo today without Kate, but we have a really awesome guest with us today, and I will share with you just in a minute. If you didn't check out last week's show, you are going to want to do that for sure. We talked to Beth Medina on avoidance to action with brain spotting. So you'll definitely want to check this out. But before we dive into the show, I just want to let you guys know we're doing something really cool. We're actually doing a contest for the month of April. So all of our podcasts that are released in April, what you're going to do, you are going to go over to our website, privatepracticestartup.com. You're going to head over to the resources tab, and you're going to look for the free HIPAA download. Go ahead and download the free HIPAA, which is our attorney-approved private practice HIPAA form. And each week, in the month of April 2019, so in case you're listening to this podcast in 2020, so April 2019, we're going to choose one person who actually downloaded the HIPAA of that week, and you guys are going to get a peak package of paperwork for free. So that is our complete 20 plus forms of all of our attorney-approved private practice paperwork. So don't miss out on that. Make sure you head over to the resources tab and do that. So our guest today is Alison Pidgeon. She is the CEO of Move Forward Counseling, Move Forward Virtual Assistant, and Business Consultant. And we're going to be talking today about how your business is suffering by not being in a mastermind. I know I'm excited about this because we haven't had a topic yet on masterminding. And I'm really excited that Alison is going to go ahead and share this with us. So just a little bit about Alison. Alison is a therapist and has a group practice with 10 providers. She's also, like I said, the CEO of Move Forward Virtual Assistants, which is a VA, which it provides VA services for therapy practice. In addition, she works as a business consultant for our friend Joe Stanek at Practice of the Practice. And when she's not building businesses and helping other therapists build theirs, she's chasing 2 of her children, and soon it will be 3. They're welcoming a baby boy this summer. So that's really exciting. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. So let's just kind of dive in. I don't know if we want to start with masterminding or just even how did you get into the field? Where do you want to start, Alison?
That is a great question. Yeah, I feel like how I got into the field could sort of be a long story, but I'll give you the shortened version. So obviously I became a therapist. I worked in community mental health. I got super burned out. I left, started my own private practice, and realized that I could make a bigger impact and make more money by starting a group practice. So started building a group practice and just loved the business side of it. Actually worked with Joe Stanek as my business consultant and approached him about working for him, and he graciously said yes. So I've been working for him for a little over 2 years now. And it's just sort of grown from there in terms of now I bought a building for the practice and I started this virtual assistant company. So I just really love the business side of things. And that's really where I focus my time now.
That's awesome. Share the story. I know we had talked about it when we were talking about you being on the podcast, of the story about how you actually approached Joe and everything like that. I love that story.
Oh, when I was out in Michigan, is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So when I went out to Michigan to be a part of a event he was doing called Pinot in Practice, which was like 2 days of business consulting and then wine tasting, which was lovely. And realized during the course of that 2 days that I was a lot further ahead than the people that were there. And, you don't know how you're doing as an entrepreneur a lot of times because you're just sort of doing your own thing and you're not necessarily comparing yourself to your peers, but realized that I knew a lot and thought it'd be really cool to potentially be a business consultant. And so didn't think much about it, went about the rest of the day, and then woke up at 4:00 in the morning, like with one of those, like you just sit straight up in bed, like, oh my gosh, I need to ask Joe if I can work for him as a business consultant. So I got up early and I went to the conference center to talk to him, and he was like, you know what, I've been thinking about that. And so we talked about it a little bit more, and then he was, gracious enough to bring me on and train me. And it's been a great experience working for him.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's dive into the topic of masterminding. I know that I have heard that it's really important to have a coach, a mentor, and be involved in a mastermind. And what I've heard and how people really define the difference between coach and mentor, a coach is really your accountability partner, or I shouldn't say partner, but someone who coaches you and talks about mindset stuff, where a mentor is really someone who knows your profession, right? So if you're in real estate, it's a real estate person. And then the importance of being involved in a mastermind. So share with us, and do you run masterminds? Do you do that for Joe? Share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've actually been on both sides of that. So I've participated in mastermind groups, but I also run a mastermind group specifically for people who want to take a solo practice and grow it into a group practice. So I'm actually on my 5th time of running that group, which is really cool. So yeah, so I have a lot to share, not only as a participant, but also as somebody who runs them. And I just, have always seen the value in participating in mastermind groups sort of on a variety of levels. So I'm definitely a proponent.
So share with us some of the benefits of being involved in a mastermind.
Yeah, I think, even just the process of like setting aside the time to participate, because I think a lot of us get caught up in the day-to-day of our business. And if we're not carving out that time to look at how can we continue to improve the business or grow the business, it's not going to happen because we all get busy with other stuff. So that's one reason I like the mastermind format. The other reason is because, you're obviously then in a group of like-minded business owners or entrepreneurs, and people are maybe at different stages or have different ideas, things you've never thought of before. Maybe they've already gone through what you're going through and they have good advice for you. So in that way, I think it's a great support, and it's also can be really inspiring to be around other people who are really, reaching for big goals. Over the summer, I went to Slowdown School, which is another event that Joe put on. And I was actually helping to lead it. And, even though I was there as the person leading the group, I was so inspired by the other practice owners that were there because they were doing amazing things. And it was at that point that I got the idea to, really go all in on starting the virtual assistant company. So not only was I helping, but they helped me as well. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I find that there's this, reciprocity, like it's a reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationship in a mastermind. I know as therapists, it's not a reciprocal relationship, right? It's like we're giving to our clients, and that's overall what it is. But Kate and I talk about this even in supervision as supervisors. It's this really cool, like intellectual process where you get so much value out of it as well, whether you're running it or not. I know for me, like anytime I ran a mastermind for about 1.5 years, and then I just sometimes, you feel like you outgrow stuff. And so I decided, like, I started creating my new mastermind in my head, and then I started reaching out to people who might do it. I decided I didn't want to run it. I feel like I run too much stuff. So I'm like, I just want to be a participant. And it's interesting because my old business coach, I had talked to him, and we're actually creating a mastermind, but almost like by my design. So it's super cool, and I'm really excited for that. For me, I know that when I do mastermind or when I go to workshops or big conferences, it's almost like, I don't know, I get like this business high. Like, it's like, yes, and you get so creative and you get so excited, and then you're like, yes, I can do this, and it just pumps me up. So I know that that's like one of my great benefits that I get from masterminding.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So I know your topic is really like, your business is suffering by not being in a mastermind. So share with us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of people have big goals and, dreams of where they want to take their business. And, a lot of us as therapists obviously didn't go to get a business degree. And so we're, just sort of like struggling along, trying to figure out all this stuff. And I just think it's so important to, ask people who've already been there, done that, for guidance of how to reach your goals, because, especially my own journey just starting out, like I see how many mistakes I made, and now I wish I would have gotten, help sooner. Like I was pretty far into the process by the time I reached out to Joe. And I just think about how I could have grown so much quicker and also made, so many fewer mistakes if I had just gotten some help with the business side of things.
Totally. And I feel like as you say that, it's really speaking to my point about, having a mastermind, a coach, and a mentor. And especially like early on, I mean, you don't have to do everything, but it's just really helpful because the mastermind to me is that juiciness of collective ideas. Like where most of us who really love being entrepreneurs, that's where we just get off on, right? Is that movement of ideas. And then the coaching, the accountability, the mindset, and then the mentorship is really helping you achieve, how should I market? And if I want to market this way in therapy, what are the steps to that? And those things are really important. For your creation of your virtual assistant business, so you've been masterminding, you were in the mastermind, which gave you the idea to create it, and you've been masterminding since then. Share with us because it's a different business, right? So share with us, how it's helped you because you've been masterminding with the virtual assistant business as opposed to you got into the mastermind later with the therapy practice.
Yeah, I think what really helped me was I had then made some connections. And so I had some contacts I could reach out to ask, oh, you're doing something similar. How does this business work? Because I really had no idea how it worked. So that was really helpful. And then also just having support people who, either became clients of ours or, Joe was a big support to me. He sends me clients, which I really appreciate. And, so I think too, what was also helpful is already having the experience of building a business with my practice. And then it's okay, now I'm doing this again. And a lot of things are the same. It's not the exact same business, but a lot of the concepts are the same. So that was also, it felt easier to get it going the second time around.
It's almost like when you buy a house, right? When you buy a house for the first time, it's very nerve-wracking and you're very emotional about it. Am I making the right decision? And then it's the process, the steps, and it just gets easier.
Yes.
And one thing that I find about masterminding is what you're talking about is the connection to other people's networks and how important that is, right? And we can go to networking things, but to be able to, give and receive within the context of the mastermind and be able to have people just say, I know you, I like you, we've been working together and this person would be a great connector. This person would be a great contact. I also love that as well.
Yeah, that's been huge for me, for sure.
Yeah. So share with us some other things about, how your business could be suffering if you're not in a mastermind.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times people say you don't know what you don't know. And so the mastermind can be a great place to go, maybe even present your plan of, okay, this is how I want to grow my business or whatever it is, and just see, did I forget anything? Is there something that I'm not thinking of that I didn't include in my plan or whatever that is? Mm-hmm. And then obviously if you have multiple people in a group, you may get multiple opinions or ideas. I think too, a lot of times we get distracted by things and we start something, but we don't always follow through on it. And I feel like whether it's a mastermind or whether it's, what we do as business consultants, a lot of times I'll say to people, why are you all of a sudden we're going off on this rabbit trail of you want to start this new project when you originally came to me and said you wanted to build up your practice. It's just getting that kind of feedback because I think that a lot of us do that. We get distracted by the next shiny object and then we don't follow through on what we originally set out to do. So I think it's good to have that feedback from people.
Yeah, Gordon Brewer turned us on to shiny object syndrome, and that's the truth for sure. It takes for me. I think it's been almost this 5-year practice of really staying very present. Each week I create my weekly plan and it's divided in sections in regards to my different businesses, what I need to do for myself. The house is on there because there's a lot of stuff we want to do for our house. but really identifying like what's important and what's urgent, right? So important, how I was taught in business through my business coach, was anything that if you do this task will progress your business, right? And if you don't do this task, it's a consequence to your business. So whether it's, sometimes when we're in that place of what do I do next, or I have so much going on, asking yourself what's important right now that's going to move my business along, right? It's not important that, I send something to my accountant when a potential client called me, because that will move my business forward in this moment. And that's been really helpful. But I have like right next to my computer, like that plan is looking in my face all day. So just in case I'm getting off on track, is the ability to come back and be like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing here? What's really important?
Right.
But I love how you talk about like the mastermind really kind of helps you be able to do that.
Right.
I'm thinking people might be wondering, like, how do you find a mastermind? And if I'm a therapist, do I find a mastermind that has other therapists? Do I not? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think some good things to think about are, who is leading the mastermind? Because obviously you have to feel like you connect with them, or, sort of resonate with maybe how they, present their content or how they run the group. Something else too, I've gotten good learning opportunities from being both in groups with therapists, but also I was in a mastermind just of other business owners that had all kinds of different businesses, and I learned a lot from that as well. So I tend to kind of switch around and do different types of coaching and different types of groups, just because it feels like I always learn something new, and that might just be my personal preference, but I think it was all worthwhile. So I think it depends too what your goals are. So obviously, like in my Start a Group Practice Mastermind, everybody has a solo practice, wants to grow into a group practice, and they want help doing that. And so because everybody's, singularly focused on that goal, obviously it's very valuable to them to be in that kind of a group, but that's a very niche type of group. Mm-hmm. So I think it just really depends on what your goals are as a business owner.
Gotcha. What is one of the things that you got from being in the mastermind with therapists and then being in the mastermind with other business owners?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I realized that, there's just certain things about running a business that's the same no matter what the business is. And it was nice to see like, because it was a group of all women. It's like, these women are like struggling with the same sorts of things that I am, even though one of them is running a drapery business and the other one is running a, whatever it was.
That was so random.
Yeah.
Drapery.
Yes. Yeah. She ran a high-end drapery business. That was her business. She did very well at that. But it was just nice to sort of see the similarities. And there were also differences, and the differences, were something that I learned from as well. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. And what about being in a therapist mastermind?
Yeah, I think obviously being with other therapists, you all have a shared language. And you all are kind of, again, you're sort of going through the same things at the same time, especially in my group. I don't know if that's true for every mastermind group with a therapist in it, but so that's nice as well. I think there's a nice camaraderie that develops, because something that comes up a lot of times in my group is how, it's scary building a group practice. It's scary to hire that first person. It's scary to put yourself out there as the owner and the boss of a group practice. And so I think there's a nice, just sort of like supportive environment, because of course we're all therapists, so we can all empathize with how each other is feeling. Totally.
Yeah. We do that well.
Yes.
Share with us, like, how should someone go about finding a mastermind?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, I think, there's so many great private practice consultants now. And so, you can consume a lot of content for free, right? Like podcasts and blogs and all of that kind of stuff. So maybe to sort of check out, different consultants and see, who you resonate with. Again, there's just, certain people that you just seem like, I get her or get him or whatever. And it's just like, I could see, I picked Joe because he and I think in a very similar way in terms of business. And so it just became apparent after, listening to his podcast for so long, like, we'd be a really good match. So, another resource too would be see what there's available to you locally. I think my mastermind that had the businesses of various types was actually in person. And there is something to be said for actually like meeting, in a room and not necessarily, having a meeting virtually. That can be great as well. So I know in my area, there's a lot of supports for entrepreneurs. Some of it's free. Obviously, some of you have to pay for, but, just might be something you need to think through whether you're fine with having something virtual or if you want, that in-person connection. So I think there can be, many places to look for a mastermind group.
That's a really good point. I know that my last mastermind that I was running, even though we're mainly in 2 different counties, pretty local, we did all online. And this one now that I'm creating with my business coach is going to be like in every other week and actually once a quarter, which I had participated in before, which I absolutely loved and is so valuable when you talk about working on your business and not in your business. Is part of the mastermind is that we're going to be allowed to attend Growth Club as well. So this is like a full day where there's about an hour and a half where they talk on a specific topic, but then you're creating your next 90 days. So I'm really excited about that. But I like that you say that is I think you really have to look at yourself and, are you a person that, just does want the online? Do you want some in person? Is there a mixture of both? Is there an opportunity for that as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. What in regards to like structures of masterminds, what can people expect? What's been your experience?
Yeah, from what I understand, like the format can be quite different, I guess, depending on who's leading it and how they want to do it. So Joe obviously taught me how to run Mastermind, so I do it the way he does it.
Tell us a little bit about that. How do you do that?
Yeah. So we start out the group by doing wins. So everybody gets to share something positive that happened in the past couple of weeks. And then we move on to the traditional sort of hot seat model, which is like it's one person's turn. They present a question or a problem to the group. The group then asks clarifying questions, so they get to elaborate on exactly what they're talking about. And then the group then gives them kind of rapid fire advice or suggestions or ideas about what they should do. So that's what we do. The mastermind group that I was in was a little bit more, I would say, informal. So there were just sort of blocks of time that people were able to talk about what they wanted to discuss, but then there was also kind of a teaching component at the beginning of it. So, I mean, it can look different depending on the goal of the mastermind and, the person's who's running it, their preferences.
Yeah. Let's just take a quick break for our sponsor.
There are so many ways to keep your practice organized, but Therapy Notes is by far the best. Their easy to use, secure platform lets you not only do billing, scheduling, and progress notes, but also create a client portal to share documents and request signatures. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone support. So when you have a question, they're there so you can get help fast. Get started with Therapy Notes today, trusted by over 60,000 professionals. Go to therapynotes.com and enter promo code PPS, as in Private Practice Startup, and you'll get 2 months for free. Also, you can listen to episode 54, where we interviewed Brad Pleiner and took an in-depth view into their EHR. If you're in private practice, you wear a lot of hats, and some of those hats are totally great, but some, like filing taxes and running payroll, for example, not so great. That's where Gusto comes in. They make payroll, taxes, and HR actually easy for small businesses like your private practice. Fast, simple payroll processing and benefits and expert HR support all in one place. Gusto automatically pays and files your federal, state, and local taxes so you don't have to worry about it. Plus, they make it easy for you to add on health benefits and even 401ks for you and your team. Let them wear one of your many hats. You have so many better things to do with your time. Listeners get 3 months free when they run their first payroll. Try a demo and see for yourself at gusto.com/PPS. That's gusto.com/PPS.
As you're sharing about that, one of the things that comes to mind, I started reading Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. We had the opportunity to have him on our podcast talking about profit first, and he said he would come back once I finished the book Clockwork. So I'm actually reading that right now. And in the book, he talks about Parkinson's law, right? So basically is that our amount of work expands with the amount of time that we have. And interestingly enough, I know for me, when I think about Mastermind, and I think about kind of my life already, right? So I still see clients. I see about 12 to 15 clients a week. So that time is like completely gone. There's no time to do anything else. And then with the private practice startup, doing the podcast, having meetings with Kate, calls, like it's the amount of time is very minimal. So for me, when I like think about a mastermind, when we did ours, it was like literally 4 people, 30 minutes. And it was very interesting because with the amount of pressed time, you had to be very clear, right? You couldn't say, well, I went to work and I was thinking about, and it's just like, you have to come prepared. Like this is, we did wins too, like celebrate a win. This is my issue. This is what I need to be held accountable for. Boom, next person. So I think it's also understanding yourself and what it is that you're really looking for. I'm a high D on the disc profile, like all the way. So I like to get it done. Don't waste my time. Let's do it. Let's move on. Very cool. Any other final thoughts on masterminding or how it can benefit, or it's your business is suffering if you're not in one?
Sure. Yeah, I just think, if you have some clear business goals, even if they're not clear, even if, the path there is sort of nebulous to you, I think a mastermind just is so beneficial, for all of the reasons that we talked about here. Obviously, you have to find the right one and feel like it's the right fit. But, I think if you're really in that mode of wanting to grow, it would definitely be worthwhile.
Awesome. And I know you reference a lot that you do have a mastermind for solo practitioners wanting to be group practice owners. Do you have a mastermind coming up? How often do you run that?
Yeah, so I run it maybe 2 to 3 times a year. So there's going to be a long break here because I'll be on maternity leave. But I think in the fall of 2019, I'll start a group up again because I do get a lot of requests for it.
That's awesome. And if people are interested, how can they reach out to you about that?
Yeah, so through the Practice of the Practice website, there is a separate page for consulting with Alison, and there's a contact form on there. If they're interested, they can fill it out.
Very cool. And I know you wanted to actually give away a resource for your VA business. So what is that?
Yeah, I wanted to give away, if anybody is listening to the podcast and is interested in signing up for VA services, I will give away 2 hours of free VA time that they can use if they happen to go over their allotted package time for the month, which happens. Sometimes we get busy. So that'll be a nice bonus for folks if they're interested in getting a VA.
And share with us a little bit about your VA services. What are you guys providing?
Yeah, so we have VAs who provide mostly answering phones, scheduling, managing emails, all the stuff that practice owners, once they get busy, don't have time to do. The number one thing that we get asked about is, can you live answer the phone? And we try to live answer the phone as much as we possibly can. If we can't answer the phone right then, we will answer, or we will return the call within 2 business hours. So we especially work well with practices who do take insurance. So if you need help with checking benefits and posting EOBs and following up on insurance claims, the VAs can do all those things for you.
That's awesome. Very good. And Alison, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
Probably my Practice of the Practice email. So it's Alison with 1 L, ALISON @practiceofthepractice.com. And if you're interested in the VA service, it's moveforwardvirtualassistance.com.
I thought you were going to say, get in touch with my virtual assistant.
Well,
you're going to have to.
When you email that address, that's who you get.
That's awesome. Very good. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing your thoughts about masterminding. I know that this has been really helpful. I've enjoyed talking about it at least, and I hope it's been helpful for our Startup Nation. And so guys, next time we are going to have Becky on with us, where she's going to be talking about emotional support animals, doing evaluations and things like that. Some of you have been asking for that. I obviously know that there are evaluation stuff done, but I have no idea about that. And actually one of my clients had just asked this week to do that. I'm like, I can't do that. I don't know anything about that. So join us next week for that. And, we started doing something new recently as we close out, is we just want to give a Startup Nation superhero shout out to Naz Mo. Naz says, if you're thinking about starting a private practice or are a seasoned therapist thinking about augmenting your practice, you have to listen to this podcast. This one is unique to all other business podcasts I listen to since it's for therapists by therapists. So we appreciate you shouting us out, Naz. We want to shout you out, and we hope you are doing awesome things in your practice. And we know that you have a podcast too, so it's a really good podcast. So you guys check that out as well. So that is about it, guys, for today's show. Make sure you check out the show notes where we will have all the links and information regarding Alison's giveaway, the show note tips, and how to contact her. So have an awesome and inspired day. Thank you for allowing us to always inspire you from startup to mastery. And next time we'll be back with Kate. So we'll see you guys later. Check you later, Startup Nation.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.